Yes.
Well, hi. Welcome to an open dialogue. Goes
Hi, everyone.
visual.
You're
Ah,
watching an open dialogue, and I'm Violet Howe.
and I'm Tawdra Kandle, and
And we've had
um,
quite the morning just trying to get this set up
in
to bring
point of
it to
fact, it is
you.
afternoon, but
Oh,
okay.
it's morning somewhere.
It's morning somewhere. We actually started in the afternoon too. We are starting an hour later than what we intended, but doesn't matter because we're not going live right now anyway. But it's okay because this is our first foray into the visual arts in this podcast. We have done some lives before.
Yeah, we've done some Facebook Live videos. And so we had decided we enjoy talking to each other on the podcast, but we decided it
Mhm.
might be nice if we could actually see each other. And then when we do have guests come on, if we could see them too. So we decided that we would bring this to you visually and do video. And
You're welcome, world.
we are writers, not tech people. And so, as would often happen with the podcast, when something goes wrong, we're kind of like, call the IT person, but there is no IT person. So,
No.
one thing we can tell you if you're going to subscribe to this podcast is that anything can happen. And we're not going to spend, yeah,
Mhm.
it's gonna be, like, just live however it happens,
It
and,
is.
you're gonna get to know the real Tawdra and the real Violet
The real
because
Violet.
we're not gonna do a lot of post-production editing,
No. No, and
like, probably no post-production editing.
if you had been a fly on the wall in our last few years of podcasting, there was a lot of, "Wait, the dog is barking. Wait, somebody's coming to the house. Okay, ready, and go." And so now, because we are visually live too, we will not be
We
doing
won't
that.
be
So
editing all of that out.
no,
So,
you get to see it.
if the dog
Ooh,
barks, the dog barks. This is a
that's right.
real life as it happened. What do you call it, like a slice of life or
A slice of life, that's
slice
right.
of life podcast is
It
what this
is.
will be.
A
So
tasty slice of life with, as my granddaughter would say, whipped cream on top.
yes.
Yes.
If you are an audio subscriber, we will still be doing our audio podcast, so you're not going to miss
Good.
out on anything.
Yeah.
If you are a new video subscriber who is joining us, welcome to an open dialogue.
Welcome.
We like
Yeah.
to talk about books, movies, television, pop culture,
Mhm.
families, life, current events,
S
whatever.
sports, if I can really twist your arm, if we can
I
pair
know.
it with something else.
If you can make the sports relevant to something else. So,
That's right, that's right.
no, I like sports. I you know what? I enjoy like I love going to a football game or I love going
Mhm.
to a basketball game or
Right.
even a baseball game. Yawn. But my father was a coach and I really
Mm.
think I got all sported out
Yeah.
throughout like those years. And I have no athletic ability. Like I've tried every sport that you could possibly try and I can't
Mm.
run and I can't throw and I can't slide and I can't catch. I can write and I can sing and I can act. So
And I think those are admirable qualities, and nobody should expect you to do anything else really, right? That's all it is.
not if your dad's a coach. But
So, it's 2021. Look at
is it
us. It is. I am given to understand that it is. I'm given to understand that we have made it, not quite a week,
that we
but just
survived
about, yeah.
2020?
We did survive 2020. We did, yes. And,
What is your biggest takeaway from 2020?
my biggest takeaway from 2020 would be that I really don't do much that was affected by the pandemic because, honestly, to be completely serious about it, my life did not change all that much, and part of that is not just me, part of it is where I live in Florida. We did not have the extreme, uh,
Lockdowns.
lockdowns that other
Right.
places did. I mean, certainly, mask life has become a reality. Now we go, "Oh, do we have your mask?" before you're walking out the door. We keep some in the car, we keep them on hooks. We just got the baby, her first one, because she's gonna be 2, so she has to start wearing a mask. She was super excited. And I'm not being facetious, she was. I got her an adorable little kitty one. So, um, but that's gonna be her reality. She's
Right. She's
she's
not going to know any different
no, she's
until it
not.
changes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it may be something that that stays with us for a long, long time. And other cultures do this as a matter of course,
Right.
you know,
Right.
which is
It's more commonplace in other cultures.
exactly, exactly. So let's see. Yeah, I think that that was my biggest takeaway was just that my life kind of went on.
That your life is locked down all the time?
Well, not lockdown, but there are times, there were certainly times that I would just forget. Like, I would be like, "Well, why can't we do this?" And somebody would look at me and say, "Well, COVID." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's true.
Well,
I forgot about that."
and let's because you know me, I'm always like that. Let's preface that by saying that we realize a lot of people's lives were affected with illness and with loss
Greatly.
of loved ones, and
Yes.
we're not in any
Yeah.
way whatsoever making light of
No.
that.
No, not a
Um,
bit. No.
we've been very fortunate to not have severe cases strike our immediate family, which has been
Yeah.
great. I think
Yeah.
my biggest takeaway is that plans can change because I had
Yeah.
so many plans for 2020 and hit the ground
Mhm.
running at the beginning of the year. And I had some type of travel or some type of event planned for every month of the year. And I went somewhere in January and I went somewhere in February and I went somewhere in March and then it all shut down and I sat home for 9 months because that was not my plan. So,
Well, I was gonna say you went somewhere in September
an hour
because we
away.
were in St. Kitts in
Yeah,
September.
we
Yeah,
did.
but
We did. But
hey, it's a place it was a beautiful week away.
it was.
Let's
It
just
was. It was gorgeous. The view was great and the company was good. I
It
I
was great,
think that,
of course.
I definitely think it was a lesson to all of us that the fast pace of our lives, like,
Yeah,
that all just kind of, like, came to a halt. The go, 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 the socialize, 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 the, travel, like, all of those things. There were many of us who were accustomed to living a very fast pace and a very busy life, and that just kind of, like, came to a halt. And, I think for people who were introverted, the beginning of it was kind of like, "This is paradise. I don't have to socialize. I don't have to leave my house." But for people like me who are extroverted extroverts, I was, like, going stir crazy. I was like a tiger in a cage. Like, at one point and my husband was being he was trying to be considerate, so he would go to the grocery store on the way home, or he would go to Target on the way home because he was, going out into the world working. And, I, of course, am home working. And so he would text me on the way home, "What do we need?" And he would go get it so I didn't have to leave the house. And after a while, I was like, "You gotta
mhm.
stop. Like, I have to leave the house. I have to see other people. I have to be around other people." Like, I love my dogs, but, like, they sleep all day and I need to talk and I need people to talk back to me. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it is. It's true. We went through a time period where we just couldn't see family. Even I couldn't see my granddaughter. I couldn't see my oldest daughter and son-in-law. I couldn't see my youngest daughter. Um, but still, I'm not complaining because it was a short-lived period, but it was an adjustment. It was,
Well,
you
I
know,
think other than the obvious health issues that have come about with this and
mhm,
financial issues for people that have come about with this, that
definitely.
social aspect has been huge. People not being able to see grandparents, people
Yeah.
not being able to see family,
Mhm.
people dying alone, people being ill alone, people not
Yeah.
having their support system, people not being able to go back home for holidays, like things like that. I think that's been a huge cost of this pandemic that's it's not measured in dollar signs and it's not measured in numbers of cases, but just the social impact of people who haven't been hugged, or people who haven't held another person's hand, or
Yeah.
people who've had grandchildren and haven't been able to be there for that experience. Or so I
Yeah.
really think there's definitely a cost in this that's not quantitative.
Yes, yeah,
So
without a
several.
doubt, without a doubt. Our life had changed significantly, before that, probably about, it was 4 years yesterday that our life kind of, changed very abruptly and
Right.
significantly, and so it felt like we had been in training for this for several years, and
Right.
it was just kind of the next step, and things have gone back a little bit, but for those of you who don't know, my husband is a priest and he does a lot of work with the elderly, especially in senior facilities and nursing homes. And it's been very touch and go about when he can go in, when he can't.
Right.
It'll be, 1 week, yes, come in, do a service. And then 3 days later, nope, you're back out. So we've had to, like you said, be flexible.
So looking forward to 2021,
Mhm.
um, what do you have any goals that you've set, or are you just kind of waiting to see what happens?
Because I wrote right up until the end of 2020, I'm taking the first 2 weeks of 2021 to plan, to lay out. I started my vision board. I have all my little things cut out. I did realize something. I don't get magazines the way I used to. I mean, I was always a magazine fiend. Like my mother got Good Housekeeping, and I would read it cover to cover. I got Vanity Fair, I got Glamour, I got
Right.
Vogue, I got, you know, W. And those just kind of have faded away. And I went to go do this vision board thing, and I'm like, I have no
I have no
magazines.
magazines to cut out pictures.
Right, and then I went to, the store, and you can't get the magazines the way you used to. I mean, I don't know where I'm gonna have to go, but anyway, I did a lot of Pinterest work, and so I'm about to do that. So I have been very, thoughtful about what 2021 is going to bring. I know I have 8 books. No, 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 much more than 8 books. I have 12 and 6, 18. I have 20 books that are plan to release this year.
That's
Um,
insane.
it is insane. It is insane. And I haven't said that out loud until right now. So I'm like, oh, yeah, well, wait, I only have 6, but I also have 12 uh, holiday novellas that will, one for every month, that are going up. So yeah, I have that. I have some goals for Novelist Inc., which I'm president of this year, and I have a legacy. I want to leave there a legacy. I know that is a legacy, right? The legacy is not to burn it down. Um,
That's a good goal.
that's a good goal. Actually, it's been a wonderful experience working with them. So I'm really excited about hoping to.
You got to be president-elect during, like, pandemic year, so that's like
Actually, I was interim president
oh,
during.
that's right.
Right.
I
Yeah. I
forget
was
the
I was only I
titles.
was only president-elect for about 2 weeks, but, yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting year planning last year, and the nice thing is that this year I don't have to plan the conference. I've handed that off, so, yeah, that I think my goals are just to, one thing I do wanna do is intentionally plan self-care, put that into my calendar, so I'm working on that right now. Because I have a tendency to put that at the bottom of my list, which I think a lot of women do, maybe some men too. Um,
And then you don't take care of it until you completely burn out and your
right.
body, like, shuts down.
Yeah, yeah. And I was listening to one of my things that I've been doing during this time of kind of decompression and planning is listening to podcasts and reading books that I have needed to catch up on. And I listened to today while I was getting ready a podcast from last April with Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle. And they're talking about how one of the greatest accolades that women embrace is selflessness.
Yeah.
And that was just eye opening because that has always been that I can remember that just in my family, not just with myself. And I thought, you know, that's wrong.
Well, in our family, in society, in religion, in all of that, like,
Yeah,
an example of a good woman is a woman who gives everything to her
yeah,
family, to her husband, to her
yeah,
community, to her, you know what I mean? It's a woman
yeah,
who's always giving and doing and taking care of others is what we look at as an example. And that's great and that's good. And I think that sometimes when we talk about self-care, there are people who like to look at that and say that we're, being proponents of being selfish or being proponents of being self-centered, and that's not it at all. It's
yeah,
really just that in order for us to constantly be taking care of others, in order for us to constantly be putting energy out, you have to take care of your own vessel. um and I've heard, some really good analogies. I think the easiest to understand being the whole, the face mask and the airplane, that, like, you put
right,
your oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on anybody, before you put it on your children.
right,
And I think, like, making sure that you're eating healthy, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you're taking time for exercise or yoga or meditation or bubble baths or whatever it is that kind of, like, nurtures you, um, just making sure that you're keeping your own energy wells filled so that you can help others, so that you can give to others
Absolutely.
and love
Yeah.
others. So,
And you have to do that, and I think, this has been an eye-opening thing for a while, for me particularly, but you have to see that we have elevated selflessness to dangerous, like
mhm.
bragging rights. You know, people, well, I haven't slept more than 3 hours since my children were born, or, um, you know, at Christmas I just give everything, and
I
I'm
stayed up till four
exhausted at the
o'clock
end.
in the morning wrapping gifts,
Right?
or I did, like,
Exactly.
yeah, it becomes like
Exactly.
a badge of honor of how
Yeah.
much have I done for
Yeah.
others, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I even a microcosm of that was when we were at the NINC conference this year. One of the things I did, and I did it very deliberately, was to be protective of my health because it was a very stressful situation and had the potential. I could have, I could have been up. I could have been, worrying and redoing things and checking apps and, calling speakers and making plans, whatever, 24/7 during that week. But I, intentionally made sure every night I took a nice long hot bath and I went to bed, and I went to bed early, and I let myself get sleep, and I ate and I drank water along with my almond joyouses. And I didn't come home exhausted and burnt out and spent the way that I had in the past. So,
which is important. And it's funny because I've been, for the last few years, I've been doing a lot of travel and a lot of book events. And I love both. I love
mhm,
traveling. I love doing book events and being able to, connect with readers and connect with other authors. Um, and it's been very interesting being home and not having that hectic pace of constantly getting ready for a trip or planning a trip or getting back from a trip or catching up from a trip. It's been very
mhm,
interesting. And now I'm almost like apprehensive. um, I had planned to, even before 2020 hit, I had planned to scale back my schedule for this year. And because of everything that postponed from last year, combined with events that I was already committed to for this year, I have 6 events now for this year, which is definitely not scaling back. And I'm kind of like apprehensive about it. Now having so many months of not having that stress factor or that hectic part in my life, I'm kind of like a little apprehensive of like, oh, like I've got all these events back to back, and I have to start figuring out what's needed for each of them, and what has to be done for each of them. So, but it's a good thing. I enjoy them. So
as long as it doesn't affect your productivity and, the
I
reason that we do the
definitely was able to write more staying at home.
yeah, yeah,
So,
it is. It's definitely the truth. And, yeah, no, so what are your goals for 2021?
um, my goals for 2021, I have 4 books planned,
Mhm.
nowhere near your level, but we're different people and we
We
have
are
different
we do, absolutely.
abilities and capabilities and plans and everything else. So, one of mine actually comes out on January 12th. That's the first one for
Yay.
this year. Yay,
I'm
Whiskey
so
Flight.
excited. I've loved this book since I
Since you participated in the whiskey tasting.
even before that,
Right.
I had,
So yeah, I've got those. I have, like I said, several events that I am participating in. And I also am just trying to kind of be productive in different ways. I'm taking another Becca Syme class. If any of you are familiar with Becca Syme, she's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm taking another Becca Syme class, and really feel like I got a lot out of the last one, which I took March
mhm,
of last year, and so I'm in the process of taking another one of those. So definitely being more productive and trying to hold on to some of the slowdown, like
yeah,
trying not to go back to that level. Like I very much look forward to when COVID is contained to a point that I can visit with friends and be social and visit with family members and things like that. But to try to remember kind of like how it felt to not be so busy.
right.
So
I think
I saw a meme the other day that said that when COVID is over has become like when I win the lottery. Like, when COVID is over, we're gonna do all the things.
All
So,
the things, yeah, yeah.
well, looking back on 2020, because I wanna focus on some of the positive things with it, what were, obviously, the entertainment and arts industry as a whole took a hit, with concerts and
It
movies and things like that, but what were either books, movies, or television that you were, that you particularly enjoyed in 2020?
um, books. I read a fair amount of nonfiction, a lot of biographies. I'm trying to remember. I think I read, you know what? I think I read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, last year. I'm pretty sure. It may have
Last
come
year
out.
seems 5 years
It
long,
does. I'm
so it's
trying to
kind of
think. I'm
like,
like, was it
"That
last year?
was
But
last
I'm
year?"
pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was. And I have so enjoyed her podcasts. I mean, they were like, my daughter, who lives 3 hours away, I will sometimes meet her halfway. So I would listen to that podcast as I was driving back and forth. And it was so rich and so deep and nuanced that I would sometimes have to listen twice. Um, so let's see, that book, I've read a lot of sports romances. I discovered Ilsa Madden Mills and I like devoured her sports romances. Just those were fun. As far as TV, what did I watch? I did watch Bridgerton.
I think I'm probably the only person who hasn't seen
Yeah,
Bridgerton at this point, and it's on
I,
my list. I definitely wanna see it.
I have some mixed feelings about it. I have some very mixed feelings about it.
Well, once I
I
watch, then we'll
right, then we'll
discuss.
talk about it. Yeah, I don't think I have the unmitigated glee that a lot of people did about it. Um, I watched a lot of Disney Plus. We watched Hamilton a lot.
Loved Hamilton.
Yes, love Hamilton.
Loved it, and I
Yeah,
was really worried because sometimes when something has so much hype,
yeah,
then you then I go in and I'm almost, like, disappointed because I
yeah,
expected it to be a lot more than it was, and that
yeah,
was one instance where it had gotten so much hype that I went in thinking I was probably not going to be as impressed, and it blew me away.
yeah.
It was better than
Oh, yeah,
I understand the hype, I guess you would say. It was
exactly.
really, really good. A really good story, really good staging, clever use of costuming. The lyrics were just incredible. The performances were incredible. Like, it was just really, really good. If you have the opportunity to watch Hamilton on Disney Plus, like, is it still on
Yeah,
there? Can you still
yeah.
watch it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
I definitely would recommend it.
Yeah, I
So,
would too. I definitely would. And we watched The Mandalorian because we are Star Wars people. And I think I mean, we tend to watch a lot of old TV. We caught up in December we rewatched a lot of Doctor Who's, and we watched we're in the middle of watching a couple of seasons of Doctor Who that we had not watched because we didn't care for that iteration of the Doctor. But now we're like,
oh
hey,
well.
let's give him
Might as well watch it.
let's give him a try. So yeah, so that's been a lot of that. Movies, I can't remember the last time I was to the theater, really, even before. And we did not watch Wonder Woman yet, which is on HBO Max.
Right.
But I have not watched it.
Movie
Yeah,
theaters is one of the things that I'm selfishly most worried about because I love going to the movies. I love that whole
yeah,
experience of sitting in a theater with a collective group of people who are experiencing something at the same time and going through the emotions together of gasping or laughing or whatever. And I worry about whether or not that movie going experience will survive this. I mean, I know
yeah.
financially it's been very hard for the theaters. I know, even as much of a movie lover as I am, I don't necessarily wanna go sit in a theater yet, like, even though they
Yeah,
take precautions, like, that's just something, I try to kind of weigh my risk of, like, is this something I need to do? Is this something I'm gonna get a lot out of? And it's unfortunately not a risk that I'm, willing to take yet.
yeah,
And, also with some of the studios making the decision to go straight to streaming,
right.
I just don't know how that's all gonna affect our movie
Yeah.
industry.
No, and I would agree with you. I would agree with you about that. And
It's
we
also much harder to see the movies coming out. Like, as you know, every year I always go to the Oscar Best Picture showcase,
Mhm.
and they show all of the Oscar Best Picture nominees back to back. Well, normally those are films that I've heard about, and I normally know quite a bit about them before going in. I try very hard not to see any movies that are getting a lot of Oscar buzz, so that I am seeing all fresh movies the day that I go, or the 2 days that
Mhm.
I go. Um, and so I went on the other day to look at, like, the list of Oscar prospects, like, what
Mhm.
Variety and some of the other, industry predictors are saying are the Oscar prospects, and I've, like, heard of almost none of these movies. And,
Mm.
it's funny because of the way they're being released on streaming platforms, or,
Mm.
indie theaters or things like that, they're just not getting the exposure
Yeah.
that they normally would. And so a lot of these performances, like, I feel bad that for some people they've poured years into this performance or years into this production or whatever, and
Yeah.
it just kind of won't get seen.
No. What were some of the ones? Can you remember any of them?
No, like that,
No.
that's what one of my friends that goes to the Oscar showcase with me, she was like, "Well, what are they nominating? Because nothing's come out." I'm like, "Oh, there's a ton of movies that's come out. We just don't know
Yeah.
about them." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a Tom Hanks one that's playing right now
Oh,
in theaters, like The End of the
yes.
World or something like that. That's
Yeah.
the only one that sticks in my head, and it's
Okay.
because my uh, it's because I had to look at something on AMC, and I saw that that was there, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's one of those that was nominated." So,
Right.
but that's kind of sad that the one I remember is Tom Hanks. So that's the one that would probably get a lot of exposure anyway. And
Yeah,
that's one
that's
of the
true.
things that I really like about Oscars is that sometimes they pick these, like, minuscule movies that you would never hear, like Parasite, that I
Right,
never would have
exactly.
heard of that movie or never would have seen it if it hadn't been nominated, and it wasn't, a brilliant movie. But
Yeah, yeah.
um I think that book-wise, I got on, like, this fantasy kick at the end of the year,
Mm.
and I fell in love with A Discovery of Witches.
Oh, that's right.
Loved it. Loved it. It's by Deborah Harkness. It's the All Souls trilogy, and I read the 3 books. I immediately read them again. Um, just because, like, I flew through them so quickly, I knew I had missed stuff. And then I watched the 1st season, on television, and the 2nd season comes out on January 9th. So I'm really excited to see the 2nd
Mm.
season brought to life. And then the other book that I really, really liked was, Jennifer L. Armentrout's From Blood and Ash. I
Mm.
am obsessed with those books and obsessed with those characters, and cannot wait. The next one comes out in April, and I can't wait. I'm in her spoiler group, and I'm just like, devouring every little line or every little tidbit that she gives us in waiting for April for that to come out. So
Mm.
really, really enjoyed both of those series.
Yeah, it just when you said about the season of it's Discovery of Witches is on there's a season of it? I
It's
didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a season already out, and then the 2nd
Okay.
season comes out this
Huh,
weekend.
had no idea.
Yeah, it's on, I think it's on Sundance,
Oh, okay. Alright.
and then I think it was, like, on AMC, like, after a certain amount of time, and
Okay,
you may be able to rent it through Prime, I'm not sure. I'll
okay,
I'll look it up, and I can put it, like, in the comments on this, but,
okay.
um, yeah.
Yeah. It reminded me that my son will kill me if I don't mention one of our big, enjoyments was Cobra Kai.
Oh,
Yes, and so that, um, uh, nudged us to go back and watch the Karate Kid movies and remember how wonderful. They really, really were well done movies that stood well on their own. I remember seeing the first one at least twice, but the second 2, I think I was in the middle of getting married and having children, and I was like, I probably saw it in passing because I remembered certain things, but, Cobra Kai as a series is incredibly well done. It was Will Smith is doing it, and all the same people came back, and it's just looking at the franchise from an entirely different point of view because a good part of the first season was told from Johnny's point of view, who was the one
the
who
villain kind of.
yeah, he was a villain, and the great thing about it is that they keep bringing back these villains, and yet you get a backstory. Nobody is bad without there being cause, which I love.
Right.
I love yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, so yeah.
Confession time.
Yes.
I have never seen any of the original Karate Kid
Yeah,
films. I saw the what's his name? Will Smith's kid?
right. Yeah,
Jaden no, yeah, Jaden's the
it is
boy, Will is
Jaden.
the girl.
Yeah,
Sorry, my one of my best friend's daughters named Jaden, so that
yeah.
confuses me. But I saw that one, but I never saw any of the originals.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one, I haven't really paid attention to it, but yeah, the first 3 in really, really well done, and, they're '80s movies.
Right.
They really speak a lot about that decade,
It's
so
funny because as big of a movie buff as I am, there was this period of time in the '80s where, and of course, like, I graduated in '86, so I was like a teenager and have that kind of thought process. If it was really popular, I didn't want to go see it. So, like, I've never seen any of the Back to the Future movies.
Oh,
I've never
oh,
seen
that's good.
Karate Kid.
Mm.
What were some of the others? Like Secret of My Success, and like there were
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
I
a
didn't
ton of
see that
movies that
one.
came out in
Yeah,
that same time period that if everybody was
yeah.
talking about it, it was like, I don't wanna go see that, and it's so funny to me now that I'm like, "What an idiot," because now I go see everything, but, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
that was my rebellion
They're good,
against.
and as I said, the Cobra Kai series has really I've my son started watching it, and I was like, "Oh," and then I was like, "Oh, this is good storytelling on many different levels," because you have the generations. You have the original sensei generations, then you have the Daniel and Johnny generation, then you have their children. So it's just really, it's very well done. The next season came out, the 3rd season came out on January 1st, and I think David and I finished it on the morning of January 2nd, so
Well, the
it's good.
2 television series that I think, stuck the most with me, and again, this year seems 5 years long,
Right, it
so I'm
does.
probably only thinking of things that I've seen in the last 2 months because anything before that is just like, "Oh, yeah, when was that?"
Right.
But, Queen's Gambit on
Haven't
Netflix,
seen that one yet.
I did not expect to like it. I didn't think I was gonna be interested in it. I know zilch about chess and, really didn't think that I was gonna like it, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I loved the costumes, I loved the acting, I loved the story. Like, it was so well done, and, really, really loved that series. And the other one is Yellowstone.
Oh,
Everyone
okay.
kept talking about
Mhm.
Yellowstone, and, um do you hear my dogs?
There is that Dexter? Yeah, of course.
Yep,
Making a
I
cameo
think my
is
husband must be making an arrival at home because everyone's gathered at the front door barking, but, we're gonna see how this
that's
works.
right, it's okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna, like, blush. Okay, so Yellowstone, really, really great writing. It's Taylor Sheridan, who was the same guy who wrote, he did Wind River, he did Sicario, he did, Hell and High Water. He was one of the writers on Sons of Anarchy, and
Wow.
so, really, really good writing. It's set in Montana. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. The characters are rich and, so complex and so oh my god, they have so many faults, and, so yeah, I really, really enjoyed that show. So that would
Mm.
be Queen's Gambit and Yellowstone would probably be my 2 recommendations. I'm trying to think back on anything else that was seen during the year, but again, that
Well,
year lasted so long.
you got me watching that one that 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 I only watched the 1st season or the first 2 seasons. Oh, with the woman, it was, who was the
Good Behavior?
criminal. Good
Oh, yeah,
behavior.
Good Behavior. Yeah,
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
Behavior with Michelle Dockery and,
yeah, yeah.
Juan Diego Bato. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. So I watched
yeah.
the first 2 seasons, then you told me, "Nah, don't watch the rest."
Yeah, it kinda like they lost their way. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of times, like, they'll have a first season that's really good, like Big
Mhm.
Little Lies, and then it's like they try really hard to pull a second season out, but
Yeah.
a lot of times in that instance, for the first season, they started with a story.
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes with the second season or a subsequent season, they're starting with a desire to continue and then trying to build a story. And I think it's
Right.
always almost always better when you start with the story and
Mhm.
create the show rather than starting with the need for there to be a story and then trying to create the story to fit. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's
but
true. I also
yeah,
watched the latest season of The Crown, which is one I
I
ab
need to get back into that.
oh, love, 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 love. This last season was really good. I was not a huge fan of the actress who portrayed Diana, but I think that they did a fairly decent job of covering that storyline. I mean, um, Charles certainly doesn't come out well in it, but he doesn't come out
I
maybe.
think those are such big shoes to fill.
Oh yeah,
I don't know that anyone could
no,
step into those shoes and please
no, I don't
everyone.
think so.
Like, I
I
know
don't.
everyone's up in arms over Kristen Stewart is gonna be playing Diana in a movie,
Right.
and before she's even
Yeah.
filmed a scene, everyone's already up in arms, which I understand. I'm not a Kristen Stewart fan, but I also
Yeah.
think that anytime you have someone that is that iconic, you are not going to put an actress in that role and please everyone.
Oh yeah, and I think it's
So,
difficult because most of the people I would say who are watching The Crown, the Queen Mother, Princess Margaret, Prince Philip, even Princess Anne, are people who they're not necessarily tremendously familiar with. They're people who were more on the forefront of the stage, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But now you're talking about Diana, who a lot of people our
like, I
age
grew up, yeah,
grew
you know,
up
that
knowing.
grew up
So
with
then
her
it's yeah,
being the prominent royal,
exactly,
right?
exactly, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but it's still the storytelling is good because they don't just follow the this is what was happening. They go into what was happening in England at the time, what was happening in the world at the time, what was
Right.
happening on a larger stage. So,
And it's a
it's very well done.
dramatization, of course, like, it's not
It
like
is.
it's a documentary,
No,
so it is, a Hollywood version of what's happening, but I
absolutely.
feel like stuff like that really piques my interest in history, and then I
Mhm.
tend to go and research history beyond
Yeah.
that. My husband, even though I'm holding my hand up, is gonna walk right on in, "So, hi, say hello, you're on our podcast." So, yeah, I feel like in that respect, they pique my interest in history, and then I go and find out the true story. Like, we just watched on Netflix, and it was this year, which is why I
Mhm.
didn't include it in our last year summary. We watched The Spy on Netflix,
Oh,
and it
okay,
stars Sacha Baron Cohen, and
okay.
um, he, it's a true story about an Israeli spy who
Mm,
infiltrated the Syrian government in the 1960s. And I kept thinking as I was watching it, like, this has to be highly Hollywood. Like,
right.
there's no way this could have possibly happened. And then as I started going and looking at the truth, like, a lot of it actually happened. And
Yeah,
it's always interesting to me when you have these people, and I think we just in the last few years we've had a huge influx of this about World War II, where
mhm,
things become declassified or enough time passes that you can
yeah,
discuss things publicly and openly. And all of
right.
a sudden, you find out that there were these ordinary people who did extraordinary things that you never knew about. And so, I mean, I don't know why I would have known about an Israeli spy, but it was just
All
fascinating,
of your clandestine work and
right?
clandestine work,
Um,
you know?
but reading about his real life and what he did, like, that's one of the things I love about when they based on a true story or inspired by a true story, is because then I typically go and see, well, what was the true story?
Mhm.
And you learn really cool things.
Yeah,
So,
it is, it's true, it's true.
well, we would love to know what you guys watched and read and listened to in 2020. If you have any recommendations for us, we would love to know what were those television
Okay.
shows or books or movies
Mhm.
that stood out to you and got you through the pandemic, got you through quarantine or lockdown or just the general craziness of.
Of life.
And right. And are there any that you're looking forward to in 2021?
Yeah.
So you can always email us at an open dialogue one at gmail.com.
Mhm.
You can reach us on our Facebook page, which is also an open dialogue one. And we'd love to hear from you
And you can also comment on this on
on our
YouTube,
YouTube channel.
yes,
Yes.
or if you're listening to us on any of our podcast platforms, then you can
Spotify,
right,
Apple,
yeah.
Google Play.
Right, then you can reach out to us. And we are both available on social media. We both have websites, violethowell.com,
TawdraCandle.com.
candle.com. We're on Facebook,
Since we said
Instagram.
it that way, let's just clarify that my stuff is actually on violethowl.com and yours is on
We
TawdraCandle.com.
could just do that. We could just
Wouldn't that be
switch
funny?
it,
Just
mix it
switch
up. I
it
know it
like
would be. We'll do that for April 1st this
like a
year.
cross promotion thing.
Yeah,
Like, you know what
yeah,
I
there
mean?
you
Like, I'm
go.
promoting your books and you're promoting mine. They go to my
Yeah,
website and find yours. They go
what
to
a
your
great
website
idea.
and find mine.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
well, very quickly, in case it is a new viewer or a new listener,
Yes.
what do you write? Well, What don't you
Books.
write would be
Books.
easier to
Oh,
answer. Let me go first
yeah,
because it'll be shorter.
go ahead.
I write romantic suspense, romantic women's fiction, and romantic paranormal mystery. All
Okay.
right, now, what do you do?
Romance, everything is romance. It's, adult contemporary, new adult contemporary, paranormal, both adult and new adult, and young adult. I have one series that's one young adult, and, erotic romance. And my erotic romance is under my pen name Tessa Kent, and my paranormal is under my pen name Tamra Kendall. And, you have a release on January 12th. Whiskey Flight. I
Whiskey
had
Flight.
Yes, exciting. I had a release yesterday. Well,
Woohoo!
whenever this goes out, I had a release on January 6th, which is the first book in my holiday, A Year of Love in a Small Town series. Those are all standalone novellas set in the same small town in Georgia. And that,
Fun.
yes, and that was called A New Year in a Small Town. Um, I have one coming out on the 12th too, which is an anthology called Steamy with a lot of other fun authors, and one coming out on the 21st, which is a paranormal called New Year, New Boo.
All right. Well,
So,
awesome. And you can find out more information about all of those on her website or on her social media sites.
yeah,
And you can find out about Whiskey Flight on my
yay.
website, on my social media
And
sites.
it's up for
So,
pre-order, right?
yes,
Yay.
yes.
Wonderful.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
here for an open dialogue with Violet Howe and Tawdra Candle.
And we hope to see you next time.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, bye.
Bye.